So, I know I've said in the past before that almost anything, well, everything, is based on your own perspective, right? What you choose to believe, even about your own feelings and things like that, right? And your negatives can end up being your positives. The funny thing about my journey, I guess, with all of this, with the anger and the stuff that I was experiencing the last however long that lasted, is I stopped believing everybody's opinion of me, right? That's what it's like when we're little. It takes one person to hit you at just the right time with something like, oh wow, you really aren't attractive, or oh my god, you're selfish, or whatever it is. It only takes one person. And then we, as humans, we sort of take that, and it's like, oh, because, well, now I've got to fix it. Now I've got to focus on it and try to make that better, and I don't want to be a horrible person. And so we sort of flog ourselves with it. And I use the word flog, like in religion, penance, whip yourself in the back. We sort of flog ourselves with the negative things, believing that that's what we should do. And so, I know I wasn't always the nicest person. I know I wasn't always easy to live with. And I caused a lot of my own drama. But because I've spent the last 2 years, at least solidly, really trying to get to the roots of the anger and some of those feelings that feel like they hold on for so long. And also my beliefs. Do I actually believe this thing? Rather than just believing this because I was told this by an adult or a teacher or a friend, do I agree with it? Is that my belief? And because I've been doing those two things, I was writing something the other day. I went to respond to something on Facebook under the thing that your strengths are your weakness, your greatest weaknesses are also your greatest strengths. And I was going to use myself as an example. And as I was sitting there, I was with my sister, I couldn't remember. I don't remember. I know I was a pain in the ass at times, but I don't remember how anymore. I have not bothered to believe those things in the negative way in the last 2 years since I've been working on them, that I don't see them anymore, right? It's not that they went away. I transmuted them. I feel like that's what we do. We transmute. And so I transmuted my perspective of them, and because of that, because I changed my perspective, it muted the feelings. And so I had to actually ask my sister. Hey, by the way, I know I was a shit, but could you remind me how? Because I'm not really remembering. I don't remember with the same, I don't have those same feelings behind those things, and so they've been transmuted into experiences and not necessarily negative memories or negative beliefs. And she said, do you want me to sum it up in one word? I said, yeah, if you can, but I'd like examples. But if you had to describe it, how would you describe it? And she said, self-centered. And I thought, wow, that's incredibly harsh, right? But we've always sat around and talked. We have always sat around and talked about, we sort of reminisce, and we sort of talked, and no, self-centered is appropriate, coming from, because she immediately backed it up with, but that's because you had no self-esteem. Now, that's not something we recognized when we were kids. When we were kids, Vicky just saw me being self-centered. I demanded a lot of attention. The decisions I made seemed to be only and solely for me. And now she understands why it was that way. And she asked me, and she said, well, how did you view me? How do you see me? I said, mostly, I figure you're lonely and sad. Not that you necessarily were trying to be superior when we were younger, but it came off as superior. I always got compared to you. And Chrissy, how come you can't be like this, right? So I said, I don't know. I always assume that you're lonely and sad. And she says, no, I'm actually, I'm pretty happy. She's happy with who she is, and I think that that's awesome. But she helped me out a little, and I'm still working on that right. I never saw myself as self-centered. I was always told, we were raised that you think of others before you think of yourself. Compassion and empathy, right? And that's how we used it. And we ended up sort of martyring ourselves. We're very good at martyring ourselves. Because you are supposed to put yourself first, but not in a selfish way. As a kid, that nobody explained any of that. Right? I was always felt like I was always doing for other people to some degree, and I was always getting walked on and used for it because I was, number one, the wrong people, number two, or probably number one, wrong intentions, right? The intention behind why I did something. But yeah, I don't remember that version of me. I don't believe it with feeling, is what I'm saying when I say I don't remember. Vaguely, I know I didn't always make the best choices, but I don't feel it. I don't feel those the same way I used to feel them. And because of that, they've become tools rather than hindrances. I can be selfish, but I do it in a healthy way now. I have to take care of me and tend to my own garden and work on myself to be selfless to some degree. But I have to put like you're the soil. I have to till my own soil. I have to work on my own thing, or I don't, the fruits and stuff are going to be all wrong. I can't run around the neighborhood planting shit in everybody else's garden without, and having mine be like the eyesore with the broken down truck and all that. Yeah, that wouldn't work, but... And I made this video only to mention that that's true. It's not always fast, right? That's not a fast thing. I used to get very angry when I was little because, my father would tell me, well, if you don't like something, change it. And I'd be like, okay, and I'd change it. And I would change it for a week. And it wasn't just magic because I wanted it to be different. I put some work in, but not full work, and it was always with the wrong intention, so it never yielded the results that I wanted until I took accountability and responsibility for myself and my actions. I've been telling James this week, I said, I'm not a nice person. I think James is a nice person. He said, why do you seem so proud when you say that? And it's like, it's not that I'm proud, it's that I can be accountable for it. I have a heart. And I know how to use my heart and follow my heart. And that makes me, I use compassion and empathy. And I step in ways that I feel are decent. Because I'm a firm believer in decency and integrity. And that's what allows me to be the person I am. But if there were no consequences, I'd be a villain in a heartbeat. Or you can't, the stuff that goes, it's really good that people can't read my mind sometimes. Because, I've had a very... rich life experiences my first 30 years. I've really been through quite a myriad of them. And so I have I'm dark, I'm morbid, I'm sarcastic. There are a lot of things that I kind of keep in the back because it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but I'm not malicious. I'm not a malicious person. I don't do things maliciously. I don't hurt other people with intent. To hurt them, and that's a big difference. But yeah, now I take care of me, and by taking care of me, it helps other people. I not only help myself, I help other people, and that's the thing. When you help yourself, you help other people. I don't mean that in a stab you in the back kind of, power grabby kind of way at all. It's so complex, isn't it? So many things woven together. It's a giant spider web. It's a giant web, the web of life. Everything is possible. Everything is probable. If you think it's... When I was 12 years old, I remember thinking, man, I'm going to invent glow-in-the-dark shoelaces. A year later, glow-in-the-dark shoelaces. It's that thing that when you buy a car, you see that car everywhere. That's your power of attention. And so I feel like... And I think that's why... Really smart people always say, if you have a thought or you have a plan, don't share it with anybody, right? You don't mention it out loud. If you want to be successful, keep that shit to yourself and soldier on and push on, and you'll get there. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with that, right? Because the moment you speak it out loud, you've given birth to it. It is, now that doesn't mean it happens, in the here and right now, but it means it will start showing up. Or maybe you created it in an alternate universe. I have no idea how any of that stuff works. And I used to have firm beliefs in that. And now I just go like, it's one of those unknowable things for me. I can know what we know about it up to this point, but I'm not so silly that I go like, well, that's stuck in concrete and that's how it's going to be. And that's what I'm going to believe for the rest of my life. Everything with me is mutable. It's all a possibility. Everything is possible. And who am I to say whether there are alternate dimensions or alternate reality? I mean, we live in a 3-dimensional world. We know there are at least 7 dimensions. I know it goes higher than that. I mean, science proves certain things. Do we know how they work? Do we understand them? That'll get better, but who am I to say? But if I treat it like a story, if I treat it like a tale, if I treat it like mythology, if I treat it like anything else, it just lets me believe anything I want to believe. And there's nothing wrong with that. Most people don't understand that. They want their little houses on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky little boxes. On the hillside, little boxes all the same. There are red ones and green ones and pink ones and yellow ones, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses all went to the universities where they were put in boxes, and they came out all the same. The doctors and the lawyers all went to the universities. That was a song we used to listen to all the time. It was on a little 45. We played that one. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky. And that's fuck the ticky-tacky and the boxes. I don't know. I rambled on a bit, but you can change. Your mind is in constant movement. It's constantly strengthening bridges and weakening other bridges that don't get used. And when you change your focus and you change your perspective, what you no longer need to believe or want to believe fades away as you think about it less. And the things that you think about more, that's why I think music matters. It's why I switched some of my music, especially when I was really depressed, even if I didn't want to hear like happy, positive music. Everything you consume makes a difference. And I completely, I'm still working on a write about how my greatest strengths are also my biggest weaknesses, or how I turn my weaknesses into strengths, but I have to kind of define them better. Which won't be this week. I have a lot of things going on this week, but I'm getting there. Stay tuned. Hey.